Now, the team had the privilege of getting a viewing and an explanation of the oldest bones in the world by Professor Bonita De Klerk from Wits. Now, most people that see these bones in a museum are really seeing very good replicas, but this was the real deal.
The rare fossils discovered by Professor Lee Berger are kept safely at Wits University in Johannesburg. At the Origin Centre on the university's main campus, the original bones were taken out of storage, especially for our exclusive viewing.
Alright, so the first skeleton I'm actually going to show you is MH2, and this is the adult female Australopithecus Sediba. This was the second skeleton found at the site, and the first piece of this fossil was actually found by Lee Berger, who was, it was actually the 4th of September when we went back, and he had actually found the first piece of the humerus, or the arm, sticking out of the rock. And when we removed some of the blocks and started preparing it, this incredible skeleton appeared. So I'm going to just take you through some of the morphology of the skeleton, just to show you why it's so unique to our history. So this first case has all of her lower limb. So we've got parts of her thigh bone, her femur, in articulation with the tibia and a knee joint, one of the first patellas ever discovered, which is very exciting. And one of my favorite pieces to show is this piece here. Now this is an articulated ankle. It consists of the heel bone, the calcaneus, the talus, which is your ankle, and then the tops of your tibia, your shin bone. Now these three pieces are in articulation, which means they're exactly as they were in her body. But what makes this unique is that these three bones, had they been found in isolation, would have not been put in the same species, let alone the same individual. But yet here they are. The calcaneus, this lower bone, actually has the morphology of a chimpanzee. It falls within variation of a chimpanzee. The talus, which is the bone that's lying right on top of it, falls within modern human variation. And then, of course, the tibia is a mosaic of both. Our team who was studying this had said, had any of these pieces been found in isolation, you wouldn't put them in the same species. So this gives us quite a lot of insight into how the species was actually moving. They would have been bipedal like we are, walking on two legs, but they would have been doing it in a slightly different way. Where we have a heel-toe strike, they would have been walking on the outside of their foot. So it's quite interesting. So as scientists, we're also learning a lot from the fossils we're finding. If we move up to the next case, we've got parts of her pelvis coming out. And her pelvis is actually quite amazing. It's one of the first undistorted pelvises ever discovered. And we can actually put the pieces together and create what we call a Hemi Pelvis, which shows us a lot of the morphology. One of the things in this early humans, we'd always assumed that they had lordosis, which is the curvature in the spine that we have, because we're bipedal, and this is the first fossil that actually shows the lordosis. And this is really nice. So this is part of your sacrum, so here's a coccyx, and these pieces here are actually parts of the vertebral column, and they fit together like that. And what you can actually see is the curvature of the spine as it goes out. So a lot of what we do is actually put fossils together and figure out how they fit.
The discovery of these ancient skeletons back in 2008 put South Africa in the paleontological spotlight, as these are considered the oldest bones in the world. It's for this reason that the area is considered the birthplace of humankind.
When Lee and Matthew discovered the fossils in 2008, we realized that we needed to cast these quite quickly. Casting is quite an important part of our research, in that it actually makes a replica of the fossil. So should anything happen to the original, a replica has already been made. So it's quite an important task, and historically this has always been done by the technicians here at the university. And Lee wanted to experiment with some new techniques in casting and take it a little bit further. So we ran workshops, and we actually brought young artists in who were unemployed from Mamelodi Township, and we ran a workshop on how to cast. And out of this first workshop, two incredible casters emerged, and that was Boylo and Bongani and Kosi. And they were actually hired immediately to work on the Malapo project. From there, the project grew, and we hired some of our technical fossil excavators to come into the lab, and we started casting these. So we were making replicas of these fossils that had just been discovered, and we were then able to share them with museums and universities all over the world.
The initial casting project not only helped the world find out about this groundbreaking discovery, it also empowered people like Sandile Ndaba, who found her life's purpose in these bones.
It changed my life completely because the opportunity I was given here at Wits by Professor Lieberger and our manager Bonita De Klerk, it makes me to be who I am and know everything about fossils now.
The success of the initial casting project was replicated, and just last year, another phase of the skills development program was implemented. Marapo Stones and Bones is the collaborative effort of Gauteng Tourism and Wits University to empower the local community.
The skills development is the fun part of the project. They were first taught everything about heritage. Most of the people in the area have never even been down the caves, although they are from the area. This area is so rich in fossil heritage, but yet none of them have been through it. None of them know it. They would see the tour buses drive past, but they didn't know why or how. So the initial thing was to tell them about their heritage, where we come from, why this area is so important. We then took it a step further and started training them on how to make the molds of these heritage objects, how to cast them and how to paint them so that they can look like and feel like the real thing.
The main aim of this project is to equip the local community with skills to enable them to eventually take over the business.
It's been a year now. They've successfully been trading for 6 months. In a couple of months' time, this business will then become a co-op. This co-op will then belong to the community and will create job sustainability and economic sustainability in the area.
Wits University gave us the opportunity, and as a group, then after that they said to us that we have to work hard so that we can achieve the shop, and after that they will give the shop to us so that we can run it as the group in Marapo Bones and Stone.
There are more tourism initiatives in the cradle of humankind because not everybody is interested in fossils alone. As a way to uncover the potential of the area, a tourism study was commissioned.
In 2001, a tourism study was undertaken, and out of that study, the need for a mountain bike trail or a safe mountain bike trail was identified, and we then started to look at that possibility. In 2012, the necessary finances was obtained, and we started with the design and the construction of a mountain bike trails project. The mountain bike trails project is part of a bigger cycling initiative in the World Heritage Site. The already existing cycle trail, the yellow dotted line on the tar, about 35 kilometers of dedicated cycle lane is already available for cyclists in the cradle, and we're really just bringing a mountain bike trail now in the road reserve as part of the bigger package to facilitate safe cycling in the World Heritage Site, but also to bring people to the World Heritage Site so that they can see the area and get to know the area as a World Heritage Site close to the major centres in Gauteng.
Growing the tourism potential of the cradle is only just beginning, and with projects like Marapo, the local community is not being left in the dark as scientists continue to make groundbreaking discoveries in this fossil-rich area.
Earlier this week, I also got an opportunity to catch up with Professor Lieberger and touch base with him about his career-changing find. I began by asking him how the discovery of the Sediba fossils was made. I'm joined now by Professor Lieberger from Wits University. Professor, thank you so much for making the time to join us. Now, I understand that the Sediba fossils were actually discovered by your son. Tell me how that came about.
In 2008, I discovered the site of Malapa after using Google Earth to find cave sites and fossil sites in the region. It was my first real exposure to that technology and using it to hunt for fossils. I found the site on August 1st. On the second visit back, August 15th, I took my then 9-year-old son Matthew, my dog Tao, and my postdoctoral student Joe Kibbe. And when we got there, I said, go find fossils. And if you find one, call me and I'll try and identify it. And Matthew and Tao ran off into the bush. I thought they were going to go chase giraffe or zebra or something. I'd see them at lunchtime. Joe and I were looking at the site and I heard Matthew go, Dad, I found a fossil. And as I walked over towards him, I got about 5 meters away. And I realized that his and my life were going to change forever, because sitting in the side of the rock he was holding was a hominid clavicle. It's your collarbone. And at that moment, I happened to have been one of the only world experts on that bone. I did my PhD on him. I knew immediately what it was. That would lead to this extraordinary discovery of one of the richest early human ancestor sites on the planet. 2 skeletons and a brand new species that we would call Australopithecus sediba.
Now, Rising Star is also a very unique development underway. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Rising Star was one of the most unexpected and perhaps the most exciting discovery of my entire career. I only learned about it a month before we put together a 60-person expedition. We had to invent new technology. We had to work in a condition underground, 40 meters underground, in extremely dangerous environments. I had to put together a team of world-class scientists who had specialized skills, who could fit through 18-centimeter gaps and crawl through these spaces to excavate in these remote, deep chambers. But it was all worth it, all the work in putting that expedition together, because what came out after only 16 days underground, with only 2 people able to work at any one time up in the front, was the single richest early hominid discovery in history. Over 1,200 identifiable hominid elements. And to put that in perspective, that's more hominid fossils, that's more human ancestor fossils that have been found in the entire 90 previous years of searching in southern Africa for early human origins.
How important is the cradle to paleontology and South Africa?
We have right here on the outskirts of Johannesburg, perhaps the richest, well, in fact, absolutely the richest area for the evidence of early human origins on this planet. That's amazing. I mean, right here, next to the 2nd largest metropolitan area in sub-Saharan Africa, we have this rich evidence. It's held in a series of caves and fossil-bearing deposits throughout the region. Not only does it have the potential we know from sites like Sterkfontein and Swartkrans and now Malapa and Rising Star, but it has tremendous potential. There are hundreds and hundreds of caves out there, hundreds of sites that are going to be the focus, I would predict, for the next several decades of unlocking our understanding of where we come from.
And Professor, how do we then tap into this uniqueness from a tourism perspective?
We've started the exercise of beginning to unlock the tourism potential with incredible sites like Maripang, the Sterkfontein Visitor Center. But that's just scratching the surface of the potential. There are hundreds of sites out there. There is potential for everything from micro-scale, high-end tourism, visiting these critical, sensitive sites like Malapa, to underground tourism, visiting some of these more remote, perhaps a little bit dangerous, more dangerous to get to sites. There's the idea of all the associated areas of understanding that can come from this. Community development, involving yourself in excavations, involving yourself in the scientific work. The potential for tourism in this area is great, not only from a South African perspective, which I think is one of the areas where we have a great growth potential, but globally. There are very few other sciences that can reach the world public and the public attention in the way that the search for human origins can, because it's everyone's story.
Thank you so much for making the time to talk to us today. Of course, that was Professor Lee Burger from Wits University.